It started with a group chat. It always starts with a group chat. 143 members, a name she recognised, a photo she hadn't posted herself. By the time she saw it, it had already been shared 37 times. She was 13 years old. This is not a story about strangers on the internet. This is a story about people she sat next to in maths, people she'd known since primary school, people whose parents waved to her mum at the school gates. The cruelty wasn't anonymous. That was the part nobody warned her about. She had been, by every visible measure, a normal teenager. Good grades, a small circle of friends, a passion for art, sketchbooks stacked on her desk, pages filled with careful, detailed drawings of animals and imagined landscapes. She got her first smartphone at 11. Her parents set parental controls. They felt reassured. They thought they understood the risk. They didn't. Because the risk wasn't a stranger in a chat room. The risk was the ecosystem she already lived inside. WhatsApp, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. Platforms where the social architecture of school, the hierarchies, the rumours, the alliances and betrayals had migrated entirely online. Where what happened at 11 p.m. in a group chat would be the atmosphere in the classroom by 8 a.m. There was no escape from it, because there was no off switch. You couldn't go home and leave it behind. It followed you through your bedroom door. It sat on your nightstand. It woke you up at 3 a.m. with another notification. She began to dread the sound of her phone. And then she began to dread the silence even more, because the silence meant they were talking about her somewhere she couldn't see. The campaign against her didn't begin with violence. It began with exclusion. Removed from a group chat without explanation, left on read, walked past in corridors by people who had, the week before, been her friends. The kind of subtle, coordinated rejection that leaves no fingerprints. Then came the accounts. Fake profiles, created in her name, using her photos, images taken from her public Instagram without her knowledge, posts designed to humiliate, captions that sexualized her, comments that hundreds of her classmates could see, screenshot and share. 200 students at her school followed those accounts. 200 people who knew her name, knew her face, walked the same halls. Researchers who study online mob behaviour use a specific term for what happens next. They call it a Deindividuation Cascade. The moment when individual moral judgment dissolves inside the anonymity of the group. When people who would never say something to someone's face will type it without hesitation, will like it, will share it, will add their own. Not because they are monsters, because the technology makes cruelty frictionless. She reported the accounts to the platforms. She received automated responses. The accounts were reviewed, found to not violate community guidelines, left up. She told a teacher. The teacher said that what happened outside school wasn't the school's responsibility. She told her parents. Her parents called the school. The school said the same thing. And the accounts kept posting. And the comments kept coming. And she kept going to school every morning and sitting in the same classroom as 200 people who had watched it happen and said nothing. The psychological literature on sustained cyberbullying is unambiguous. It is not drama. It is not kids being kids. It is not something that toughens you up. It is trauma. Clinically measurable, long-lasting, physiologically embedded trauma. Studies from University College London found that victims of cyberbullying are significantly more likely to experience depression, anxiety, and PTSD symptoms than victims of face-to-face bullying. The reason is exposure time. Traditional bullying ends when you leave the space. Digital abuse follows you everywhere, at every hour, with no predictable end. The brain cannot recover from what it cannot escape. She stopped eating lunch at school. Then she stopped attending certain classes. Then certain days. Her grades, once reliable, once a source of quiet pride, began to fall. Her art teacher, the one adult who seemed to notice something was wrong, flagged it to the pastoral team. The pastoral team logged it. No further action was recorded. The family eventually moved her to a different school. A fresh start, they called it. But you cannot give someone a fresh start when the old school still exists on their phone, when the accounts are still live, when the screenshots are still being circulated in group chats at the new school too, sent by someone who knew someone who went to the old school. The internet has no concept of fresh starts. It only has archives. She is not unique. This story, the group chat, the fake accounts, the institutional silence, the family that didn't know until it was almost too late. This story is being lived right now by children in every city, every suburb, every village with a decent Wi-Fi connection. The battlefield changed. The casualties are younger, and the enemy hides behind a username. If what you've just heard feels familiar, if you're a parent who has watched your child disappear into their phone and not known how to reach them, a teacher who suspects something is happening in the corridors that never makes it to your desk, or someone who lived through something like this and never had it named, Sabrina Carroll's book, Voices Silenced by Screens, goes further. Real cases, real families, real consequences. Written with the urgency this subject demands and the compassion it deserves. The link is in the description. She is doing better now. That is the part families always want you to know first, as if it absolved the rest of it, as if better means healed, as if the years it took to get to better don't count. She still draws, different things now, and she still sleeps with her phone face down. Some habits once learned don't leave. Neither does what taught them.